I guess everyone quiet down because everybody knows it's 6:30. Some may think it's 7:28, but it's not. So this is about an hour and 2 minutes behind us, but it reminds us that time is fleeting. So we will be quick in our process here tonight. I want to call our meeting to order. Thank all of you for coming. And I first want to make mention, we have a time later on where someone will do some announcements of our a lot of our new town staff and folks that are coming on board, but I want to begin by saying a special word of appreciation to Twig, our new town manager, and to Jeff. They sound like his name. You know, I can't hear. So if you're going to sit over there, you're going to have to talk a little louder.
Jeff Bacon, acting town clerk, further than 6 degrees.
I don't know if everybody got that, Jeff, but I did.
Jeanette Dockery. I am the event coordinator and assistant to the town manager.
Thank you, Jeanette.
Jim.
Oh, sure. I'm Jennifer Kelly. I'm the new finance officer.
Jim Hoffman, town attorney.
Justin Snyder, new planning director. Nice to meet you all.
John Hamilton.
Janelle Robinson.
Tim Sessions.
Lynn Williams Devaney.
Heath Clay.
John Doggett.
Dana Luther, interim finance officer.
Twig Rollins, your town manager.
Thanks, Twig.
I guess I'm the last one to
Oh,
call.
I'm sorry.
Eric Coon.
Say that one more time.
Eric Coon.
Oh, hey, Eric. Man, you really clean up well. I mean, I don't want to say that's amazing in front of everybody, but man, you look good. Wow. Okay, item number 4, our consent agenda. Several items here. Any questions, any discussion, or would anyone like to make a motion?
Mr. Mayor, I'll make the motion to move that we approve the consent agenda as written.
Have a motion, have a second?
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
I'd like to, the June 6th meeting minutes. I don't believe Scott was here.
Say that one more time.
The June 6th special call town meeting, I don't believe Scott was here.
Neither was I, and I
Neither
don't
was he.
know Jeff that.
Okay.
Okay, does anyone have a remembrance of Mr. Whitaker being at that meeting? Might we exclude that and exclude, Jim, would you say you were there?
I was not.
Any objections to excluding those two? And still, we'd have to have that form of a motion.
May I amend my motion to accept those 2 changes on the attendance of the June 6th meeting?
Those 2 changes being Scott Whitaker was not there and that Attorney Jim Hoffman not there. I have a motion, I have a second.
Second.
Okay, so the motion stands as amended. So any other discussion on the motion on the table?
Was there a staff member there in their place? Or did we just not have a staff member that one?
I'm trying to find the notes.
Wasn't Dee there?
No, it's the third page on the first.
Sarah.
Yeah.
Was there staff there?
Okay, never mind. So what is that?
Okay, so it's good if we accept those 2 amendments To the motion, any further discussion? Any at all? Okay, hearing none, we'll call the question, and the question is to approve the agenda as amended with those two corrections. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, the motion carries unanimously. Way over there, Jeff.
Got it.
Okay, item number 5, announcements. A, any general announcements?
Mr. Mayor, I have a couple of things. We had the tow truck last weekend, and I think there's probably, what I heard, around 800 to 1,000 attendants there. And it was amazing. The kids were so excited to get their little passports where they could write their driver's license and go around and get stamped at every truck or vehicle, tractor, and then come up to the orange tent at the end and get one final prize, just what mom and dad want, more stuff. But it was great. It's my understanding that Brett Lambert did the work, and I have to say that this was a huge success. Everybody was all smiles and it was positive all day long. And then also on November the 23rd at 5:30 at the Summerfield, we're going to have our Christmas tree lighting. So I would like to just invite the town and the community to come out to that. And it's at SAP on November 23rd at 5:30. And that's the Summerfield Athletic Park. That's the one off of 220. And then also, the town council is going to be in the Stokesdale Christmas Parade on Saturday, December the 14th at 2 p.m. So we'll be throwing candy out to everyone. It's always fun, so I encourage families from Summerfield to come go over and participate in the festivities. And then I just wanted to thank Rick and Scott. Rich and Scott, sorry, for all the work they've been doing in the parks. Everything looks amazing. It looks great, and I just wanted to extend it to them.
International Program Center.
And so Dana and I interviewed her together, and both of us were really impressed with her and looking forward to her taking care of the town's finances. And then Eric is no stranger to the community. He's coming from the UNCG Police Department, and he's coming to be our new Parks and Rec Director. And all of these folks have been in touch with me since I've done their offers to them, and are excited to get started. So one more position to fill the part, and so I just want to welcome everybody, and we're looking forward to pulling together and doing great things for the town. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Rollins.
And if I could add one thing, if you guys would put your email addresses on the paper for me in case I don't have them, and that way I'll send you your employment form so you get that handled in advance. Thank you. Before anybody left.
We did have an event this afternoon. While we're backed up to that, I'll make this quick announcement. Where we had plaque from the Historical Committee presented this afternoon to the Martin House, the Gordon Hardware property, and also for Britain, our town hall, by Mayor Mark Brown and by Mr. Peterson. It was really nice, and got the opportunity to take a tour through the Martin House and all the stuff that's been done in there. And I don't think they have a time frame for their grand opening, but it will be coming up sometime in late November. And I would encourage everyone to take the opportunity to go over there. She has a lot of things displayed that are for sale, and take up opportunity to be able to go and see that, participate. And I think Councilperson Clay was there. It's great to see him there today. Really excited about that corner of the Martin House and Warren property coming back into play. It's something we've wanted for a long time, and it's great to see the completion of something happening. So we're very excited about that.
And I'm gonna say, it looks great. Like,
No, it
it
really
just is making that corner with town hall and all that. This store looks fabulous.
Yeah. So I did find out today that she's gonna sell some wine in there, and it may be an attraction for a lot of people. Certainly not me, but maybe someone else, but having some trouble getting that through. And had the opportunity to go over to our substation here in Summerfield and speak with Captain Corbett over there, who's the division commander. And he dropped a couple of dimes for us. We picked it up this afternoon, and we're trying to get that pushed through for her. So when she does have a grand opening, she'll have everything and be able to kick it off on the right foot. So super excited about that. It's just really nice. And Lauren Cox is so unbelievably excited about what she's done over there, and we certainly share in her excitement. So we look forward to that. And I want to keep making announcements about that and spread that word so people all go up there and support her. It's very, very exciting. I think that's all. Any other announcements before we leave item 5? Sorry, Mr. Rollins, I mean to skip you. So we'll move on to item number 7. Attachments for your council information. You have your board reports, your minutes, your financial reports. Are there any questions or discussion on those?
I wanted just to ask one question. That was something I was thinking about. I know I've been in town hall a few times where people were coming to rent picnic shelters, community parks. And they have this page 2, and it talks about the rental fees. And I was just wondering if anybody's considered looking at those, so we're more competitive with what's in the market. Should we look at possibly raising those? I know that usually doesn't happen until after the first of the year, but I wanted to bring it to the forefront.
As we discussed when we were doing the budget, the fee schedule had not been fully vetted by council, and so they wanted to pull it off the agenda and off the budget at that time. And the intent was to review it when the new town manager came, so that'll be one item that Eric and I guess Squid will work on.
Okay.
And hopefully you'll have your retreat soon, and by the time it's discussed, it's evaluated, the figures are reviewed, and the usage is reviewed, then some recommendations will be brought back to you
Okay.
for the fee schedule.
Okay.
So we probably will be at budget time for budget.
Okay. I just didn't want it to be forgotten.
And then also on the ABC board notes, just wanted to follow up on that. Did we ever figure out how long that board appointment lasts for? The person who's currently appointed?
So they are a liaison to the board, so they're not an actual board member, they're a liaison. Now, the board member, I think it's 2 3-year terms for actual board members. Now, the liaison is appointed by council and serves. So my thinking is that you would probably want to put terms on it just like you do your other committees,
Right.
to give individuals different opportunities. But I'm not sure the history there. I know,
I understand, so we can
was
just
it
revisit
Elizabeth
that.
Ingram, wasn't it? Who served on the ABC? Anybody remember Elizabeth? Betsy Ingram?
Oh, she didn't serve very long there.
Oh, she didn't? I thought it was quite a while. No?
I don't remember.
Okay, so Betsy served for some time on the ABC, and I'm not sure why she came off, so I don't know if it was a term thing. But I have not found anything in the town
There was
records.
not a term prior to this.
Yeah, I didn't think there was.
Because we had such a hard time getting anybody to go on the bed.
And so that could be, you could make that if you want, like a committee term, or you could just leave it as an appointment that, as long as you want them to serve or they want to serve, I don't know how you want to do that, but I could not find any documentation that listed a term.
Thank you. Yeah, that'd probably be a bad idea just to revisit that to figure something out. Thank you.
Any other discussion on item number 7, A or B?
I have a question for interim finance officer, Ms. Dana. Where do we stand on the required audit?
Right now, I am working with the current auditor. As you know, the previous auditor resigned pretty much right at year end, and so we were kind of left trying to find somebody, and when you're that close to year end, everybody already has their schedule set, so it was hard to find anybody, number one, that had availability, and number two, that actually does government audits. It's a field, unfortunately, that's been shrinking. So we did get an auditor, and we are working with them currently. We're working through some issues with the prior balances, trying to tie the prior balances into the prior audits. And as soon as we can work through that, we've been in communication with the current auditor and trying to get her records. And as soon as we do that, we can move forward with the audit.
Are we able to meet our required deadline?
The deadline passed October 31st, and unfortunately, the prior auditor had not submitted a termination of her contract to us until November. So the letter was just signed by Twig today. It was, I think, she dated it November 1st. And our prior auditor was legally not allowed to start our audit until she signed her letter saying she was not the auditor, and she had not done that yet. So when the new auditor submitted the contract that you approved and we signed, we sent it in, and they came back and said, well, somebody else is doing the audit. So she had to then backtrack and submit a resignation on the audit.
Months later.
Yes.
It's interesting that she resigned too, because I don't think any of us had any contact with that individual, besides what we heard through the finance officer. During your time there, have you been able to find out anything? Was there any sort of push to maybe make her resign?
So a question on that, if you're saying you were notified by the previous finance director, you're saying that we were notified before November 1st. Is that what you're saying?
I'm sorry, who are you asking that question to?
The person who's asking the question, you.
It's not even.
That's not what I asked. That's why I'm confused.
You said it was the previous finance director. Do you think they talked to the person who was supposed to be doing our audit? Because we had someone lined up to do the audit.
No, the question was
And
why
then
she...
they resigned.
That's not what the question was.
I'm sorry, please rephrase your question, or
Right.
restate.
Yeah. No, I said, I don't, did you ever, the first thing I said was, did you ever find out why she resigned? I don't think any of us actually had any contact with her, besides what we heard here or through the finance officer. Did you find any reasons why? Was there a push to make her resign? I'm sorry, I'm asking Ms. Luther.
I'm trying to understand the question, and
Ms.
that's
Luther,
my
do you
right.
understand the question?
I
Why,
guess
who
I do.
resigned?
The auditor.
Okay. Well, she just said we didn't know that she had resigned.
No, we did know that she had resigned, but she had not submitted her resignation. That was the case.
So we were informed.
She had sent an email in saying she resigned, but she had not officially resigned. Her contract, it was supposed to be something signed by the two parties. And the state reminded her that she had not done that. So then she followed through with that, but there was an email after some correspondence between her and the previous finance officer. She did resign, and that was the only notification we had of her resignation, other than the finance officer telling me she had resigned.
Now I have questions. So what was her reason for resignation, the auditor?
She stated various reasons, and
What was the official?
Can you tell us those reasons?
that's what we were trying to get to the bottom of. And
Well, could you just state the reasons that she stated?
well, she said various. That's all she
Oh,
said.
she said
Yeah,
various.
she said that was.
You're not saying various.
No,
She said various.
that was her. Those were her words. And then we wanted to know what those reasons were, because that's concerning when somebody does that, especially an auditor. And her response back to us was she altered the letter to say it didn't fit into her schedule. So that, because that, we would want to know, and the local government commission who approves our audit, they would definitely want to know. And so that's why the various reason explanation was not sufficient for our purposes.
And, I asked her, was there a push maybe to make her resign? And from what I can gather, well, I guess I'll just ask this question, and this might be something that we have to table until Mr. Hoffman can look into it, is, was there really any, my question is, was there any inappropriate, perhaps, communications between the former administration and the auditor that might interfere with or push for the auditor not to continue her services here. So maybe, before you answer that question, that is a question of mine, maybe you can look into that with him, so if there is something that we're able to put out there, I think it would be good for us to be able to do that.
I would say rather than creating a cloud over the previous finance director, if you have information, share it.
Well, I don't want to violate anything statutory, so I know that some things are personnel records, and I don't know what the gray, there's a little bit of gray area there. So we should probably give that to Mr. Hoffman and see if we can put some of that stuff out there, if there is anything for us to put out there.
Back to my initial question, Ms. Luther, and based on some of your answers of missed deadlines and some backdating documentation from the auditor, are there any concerns of not being compliant?
In terms of us not being compliant, in terms of financial records
Financial records,
or
exactly.
deadlines?
Both.
There may be some restatements, based on my discussions with the auditor, restatements of prior years to correct some items. I'm not sure if the state, I know there was a prior year adjustment that was recorded last year, and I'm not sure that the state even questioned it. And I'm not sure at this time that was even an accurate prior year adjustment that the auditors made. So at the current time, there may be some restatement of prior audit reports to correct some errors.
And that's what the upcoming auditor will be.
Yes, he'll address those, because the auditor booked an entry that is quite confusing, and so and her reasons are, there's a lot that's being researched. So the auditor, he's looking into a lot of different things, and I am too, and so he'll be able to present a comprehensive report to you.
And the second part of that is the deadline. Is there
There's like an
stopgap deadline that we have to hit?
December 1 is usually like the unspoken grace period. Most municipalities, it's an October 31 date, but by 12/1, just as long as you have everything done, the state usually doesn't do anything about it. The intent is for us to have everything done unless we hit some more roadblocks. We're currently waiting for the prior auditor's calculations in order to see some of the adjustments that she has in her records.
The prior, if I could,
I'm sorry, I ask you a question. So with regard to these auditor who is making these adjustments, is it the auditor from last year?
Yes.
Is it the auditor that resigned, or is it the new auditor? Which
new
auditor are we talking about making adjustments?
The new auditor is going to have to make adjustments to the prior auditor's report, so they're going to have to restate the beginning
The auditor
numbers.
that resigned, or
Yes.
the auditor prior to that who did last year's?
So the current auditor, which is the new auditor, is going to have to restate the prior auditor's audit report figures.
Which is which auditor?
The one that resigned,
The one that resigned?
yes.
Okay.
If
Well,
it's-
so as not to cast any shadows, let's just remember, we had 7 years of perfect office. And I don't think we can go without stating that. And if something happens that we have to consider or make a change, we'll certainly consider that when it comes before us.
Yes.
Any other questions on 7A or B?
yeah, I'm just going to follow up.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Sorry. Back to the deadline, you said that you're waiting for the prior auditor to provide information. Is that prior auditor working with the town to expedite that information since we have a 12/1 deadline? Or is that we can't go any further until we get that information?
We've been in constant contact with her, and I know that the current auditor communicated with her on Monday, and he feels certain he'll get the information he needs. She has responded to my request for information. She didn't necessarily have answers for some of them, but when we get her work papers, we'll be able to look into it to figure out what the adjustments were and so forth. So we'll be working through that.
Okay.
And Ms. Luther, do you mind, or do you feel comfortable commenting on that perfect audit? If that, I mean, is that what a perfect audit actually is? And If that is true, reflective of what the town of Summerfield has had,
Is that reflective of what? I didn't hear you.
of what the town of Summerfield has had.
I don't know if perfect is the term that you would want to use for an audit, because an audit is just pretty much a review of the financial records to make sure there aren't material misstatements. And so the auditors, based on your total revenue and expenses, they're looking at what's material, so that they come up with a number and they look at materiality. So an audit, unlike what the general public thinks of an audit, they think of an audit as an auditor going in and verifying everything and making sure there's no fraud and so forth. That's not the intent of an audit. And if you read the audit report, you'll look through there and it'll say that they're not reviewing it for that, and they make no comment as to that. So an audit is looking for material misstatements, they're looking for compliance, and they're just stating that you've materially represented the figures with or without their help, because a lot of times they'll help you do those journal entries, and which they did, and they have, and they then not comment on fraud or anything else.
Because they don't comment on fraud for these, right? So there is no.
If they discover it, then of course they're gonna do something about it, and then it's a compliant issues. But yeah, so an audit, you know, and this is just speaking of the general public. There's a misconception of the general public when they went with an audit, and it's been my entire career. They think an audit means that somebody's gone in and looked at everything, and they haven't.
And I noticed too that in the report, I think it's something like the internal controls that recommended that the governing body, which would be us, would maintain oversight. Maybe some other recommendations too. From what you saw, do you think that that has been kept up with in every way that it was recommended?
Well, with a small municipality, you're looking at smaller staff, and so you're not going to have the segregation of duties that you would have with a larger staff. That's just a given with a small municipality. And so you have to do whatever you can to mitigate those potential internal control issues. And you're gonna have potential internal control issues with a small staff. And so that's why we have an internal control policy, and you're supposed to review it every couple of years to see where you can make adjustments and so forth. And that'll be something that TWIG will be looking at, especially with the new digital age. Everything's automated, and we have to make sure that we've kept up with the times. And our policy is kind of old, so it's time to probably update it for the digital age. So those are some of the things, and we need to get into the 21st century with our processes as well as our policies.
And did you find that our staff picked up with those policies?
So there are policies that we have that may not have been, say, followed, but I've seen communications that said, no, we're no longer using that. So
Difficult to.
what I'm thinking is that it just needs a general review, and Twig and I have spoken about that, general review of policies, looking at what ones do we want, what ones do we not want. Do we want to alter them? They're kind of old now. You know, some of them were when we were new as a town, you live and you learn. So especially with the fee schedules and the way we rent facilities. So those are things that we want to look at. Can we do this better? Can we mitigate those internal controls? And that's one of the things I've said for many years, either follow your policy or get rid of it or alter it. Don't have a policy in place that you're not following, and so that's what we need to look at. Are we following those? And if we're not, then either get rid of them or alter them.
Mr. Hampton, just reminded me, you had asked something a few months ago about a recommendation, I think, that the auditor had.
And that's what we were talking about a little bit as far as just to maintain continuing governing board oversight. And so that's the thing that Ms. Luther and Twig can work on, just to make sure that we have the policies up to date and can have that governing oversight.
So that's internal.
And just to give you one idea of one way we mitigate it, just as an example, I do not sign checks because I have too much control over the finances. So if I were to sign checks, that's giving me way too much opportunity to potentially commit fraud. So that's why you mitigate that risk of potential fraud by not allowing the finance officer to sign checks. So those are some of the things that we're talking about when we talk about mitigating risk and internal controls and segregation of duties.
Is that something you started lately?
No, that's
We were already doing that?
when I started here the first time, I made sure of that, because I knew that
So did
being a
that
former,
finance, did D Hall sign checks?
and that was one of the things I put in place when I first started, because I knew that having been a former auditor, the auditor would be glad that we were not doing those things. So, yeah.
Some folks get very defensive about these conversations, but I think they're wonderful to have so that we can understand them, people can understand them, and we can look to see if we can make things better.
Well, I'll be some of those people if that's what you're referring to, no problem. But let me be clear, D Hall had 7 years of perfect, correct, whatever you want to call them. The majority of those I sat and listened to because I was either on this council or sitting in the mayor's chair. They complimented how we separated our duties. They complimented how we did our signatures on approval, on checks. They complimented. They never reported anything remotely to do with the word fraud, never.
Oh, no, I'm not suggesting that
And you can
anything.
call it perfect or you can call it correct. I sat here for every one of those. I listened to the person who came and did the presentation, and that's what I heard every time.
I'm not suggesting fraud, I'm just answering a question.
I feel like you are. I feel like you are.
Ms. Luther,
I have-
of course, obviously, when they recommend that we have the governing board oversight, as a person on the governing board coming in, I think it's my duty to look into it, to make sure that I continue to do what's recommended of me by the auditor.
Let me
So
be
they are-
clear with this, because since, excuse me, let me be clear with this. From the day I walked in the door, it doesn't matter what I say or what I mean, it gets misreported in the media, it gets twisted on social media. So I'm answering a question about mitigation of risk and internal controls. I am not suggesting that somebody is committing fraud. I can't say for certain, but I'm probably 99.9% sure that fraud has not been committed, but I can't say until the audit is complete.
And it
But,
sounds like policies are being looked into to see if we can
yes,
find
but,
them a little bit.
you know, that is not what I was suggesting. I was
It didn't
asking.
sound like you said.
Okay, I just want to be very
No, it
clear
didn't
here.
sound at all like you were.
Okay, I just want to be very clear
And that's
here.
not what I was saying. So let me be very clear.
Okay.
Okay, any other conversation on 7A or B?
I have one comment, totally different subject. One other item that we talked about looking at that the citizens had requested was and it was supposed to be 6 months prior, was the garbage, the GFL versus the Republic. I just don't want that to fall under it either.
As Twig will tell you, I gave him a to-do list and of pending items, and yes, that's on the to-do list, as well as the date that needs to be reviewed. So yeah, that I handed over a 4-page list to him that, you know, he's probably cursing me for. So anything that you brought to my attention, or anything that I noticed as I was going through things, any policies that I thought needed to be updated or reviewed, I made a list for him, and he does have all that information, so that is on the list, definitely.
Okay. All right.
Anything else on item 7A or B? We'll move on then to item number 8, public comments. Ask everyone if you would, please come up, give us your name and your address. Your 3 minutes will start, and you can speak to us on any subject that you would like. First off, we'll call on Kyle Stalls.
Kyle Stalls, 7823 Wilson Farm Road in Summerfield. Sorry, my leg is asleep. I think it was back in September. I came in here. I floated an idea for leadership, and I volunteered to help with it myself. Going to some of the towns who presented resolutions to us on our behalf through the de-annexation process that we went through this year. And with Lynn's help, we've been going down the list, visiting council meetings, different towns. I believe she's been to Oak Ridge and Weddington, and I've made a trip to Stokesdale and Louisville. They've gone really well. Obviously, Oak Ridge and Stokesdale, you'd expect to be very familiar with what we went through. But Louisville, very surprisingly, their town council meetings are about like ours. Kind of the same everywhere. There's all kinds of things getting discussed, but even just regular folks in attendance very familiar with the issue. of what we went through. A couple of handshakes afterwards. People want to talk about it, and their mayor definitely very interested in hearing more. So I would just encourage everybody in leadership and, you know, citizens as well. If you know people involved in local government in other towns, be sure to, especially if they supported us, be sure to thank them and try to continue a conversation with them, because other towns are facing very similar things, and it could look very different in different places. But if local autonomy is going to be preserved in this state, if local government is going to continue to matter, it's going to have to take some level of solidarity among the towns in the state. Because based on what I encountered in Raleigh, and I said this to Louisville, local government is a hurdle to be jumped over for a number of our state level representatives. So got a minute to spare, but that's all I really had. I think there's a few more towns on the list. I'll be trying to make it to speak to them, but it's time consuming. You know, all the council meetings tend to be clustered at the beginning of the month, so they overlap quite a bit, but hopefully by January, February, we can get them all knocked out. So I appreciate everybody's support in that, and hope it continues to go well. Thank y'all.
Thank you, Mr. Dawes. Teresa Perryman.
Teresa Perry, 7401 Greenlawn Drive. I got a couple of things. Yay for getting us live, I hope, on YouTube. And if that's going to be the case, where it's going to be on YouTube versus the Facebook page, I've been suggesting for years a social media policy. Never been made. It needs to be one. And I would like to see on there where you can make no comments at all. Because to me, too much negativity doesn't show light on this town. And I would like for it all to be positive. So if we could create a social media policy that has no comments from the citizens, it would be great. I noticed since I was gone last month, y'all were bringing up the community center. I was on the council when we paid for this community center. They come to us first to buy this, and it was a great opportunity. Of course, the Grange and the VFW wanted to stay involved in it, and that, in my understanding, that's what it's going to be. But this is built for the community. This is not built for a government building. People still rent it out. People love picnic shelters. They love this building in here, especially since it's been upgraded. So I think it should stay for the community and not a government building. For years, yeah, I took down them chairs when they were folded. I took down the tables. I took down the mics for years. There's always volunteers to do that. Now we get on to the water. The water, again, I can't say enough, the water and the trail money needs to go to Bandera. The water, every one of us that live in Summerfield pays tax to the Summerfield Fire District. We have a contract with them to protect us from fire. Why are you going to use my tax money again to protect me for fire? Doesn't make sense. There's too much for the maintenance. Who's going to flush the lines? I don't know if y'all knew, and I know I'm cutting short. Stokesdale refused to pay for the water they had used coming out of their tanks. So now Stokesdale Fire Department don't even use the fire hydrants anymore. So yeah, let's waste some more money. The trail, nobody wants it down Summerfield Road. It's putting in people's property. Basically, what I told Scott was when it went from a trail to the curb and gutter is, oh, forget you, and I'm not going to say what I really think, but it's like, okay, forget you, we're going to do it anyway, and you're going to have a trail, whether you like it or not. Thank you.
Gail Dunham.
Drive, Snowfield Drive. Thank you, Teresa, I agree with you. Bandera should be number one. And I'm sorry about the water tower, you should put it up for a referendum. I gave each of you a blank sheet of paper. I understand that in the budget, you plan to hire somebody for $90,000, $100,000 to destroy the comprehensive master plan. The comprehensive master plan is the only town document that had true citizen participation. And I'm sorry that none of you were there, maybe 100, 130 people. It truly had citizen participation. It was a wonderful event. And the fact that you've decided legally you gotta trash it, I'm totally opposed. On the sheet of paper, if you're gonna spend $100,000 of town money, I'd like each of you, take the sheet of paper home, maybe read the comp plan. Tell me 5 things that you think are obsolete, and 5 things that you think are probably important. I think it's a wonderful document. Don't say that you've got to redo it. The UDO wasn't legally done. There was no public hearing for the UDO. How many other things? The land use plan, $65,000, and Lane, I think you still have the maps. I mean, there was no citizen participation. So we haven't had citizen participation, and we only got 3 minutes. There was a competition for the town sign, and the citizens were told that we could vote for the town sign, but we never got to vote. So Lynn, I think that might be what, $80,000? I don't know. You had done a long time ago, you did a tree and a memorial or to honor Diane Laughlin. And the tree died, and it wasn't an appropriate thing to do. We're planning some $10,000 memorial for Trudy Whitaker. I love Trudy, she was wonderful, but this was a town volunteer. I mean, you're talking about the bench and the trees and the memorial. I don't think that's what she would have had in mind either. So, I'm concerned about all the ways you're spending money, and all the costs on these things. I welcome the new employees, and I'd be happy to talk with them anytime. Don't think that I'm trying to be negative to them. The water project, you have decided with no citizen participation that you're going to build a commercial water tower. It's a $2 million piece of property. Why would you just take the $2 million piece of property and put a water tower on it? And you said, well, you're only going to spend the $6.6 million and stop. The contract that you signed said you will continue to spend to finish the project. You need to look at the contract, which was withheld from me for a long time. I had to get it from a third-party source because no one would release it with public record information. But you're not complying with that $6 million property. I have a whole lot more, but public participation is the last thing you'll have.
James Brady.
My name is James Brady. I live at 4803 Oak Forest Drive. I've been serving as the chair of the Board of Adjustment for a number of years. And a case recently before us pointed out what some might perceive as a deficiency in the UDO. Section 4 zoning in the UDO basically allows 2 outcomes for the number of housing units per acre. The RS designation is 1 unit per 40,000 square feet. And then if you move down through there and you wade down through the open space mixed-use village, you can get 3.46 units per acre. But there's a large void in the middle. There's no wiggle room. The case at hand last September was at the intersection of Strader Road and 150. The owner of the property wanted to seek a variance to have 4 lots, which would have been, on average, 32 to 33,000 square feet each. Now, the only so-called 30,000 square foot lots that are allowed in Summerfield were grandfathered into the UDO. There's no provision in the UDO that I can see for establishing a new one. A realtor testified at the hearing that of the 45 properties available for sale at that time, 41 were $6,000 or more, $600,000 or more. And she asked a rhetorical question, why? And I have no answer to that. But I am suggesting that there could be a place for 30,000 square foot lots. There was an insinuation that by requiring a 40,000 square foot lot, a developer would have to build a very large structure. And because he couldn't make a profit by building a smaller structure on that size land. So I would like to propose to draft an amendment to the UDO to permit a 30,000 square foot lot under certain circumstances, but I didn't want to proceed with it until I got some feedback from the council. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bray. We appreciate your years of service as well. You can be able to get to him.
Yes.
That'd be great. Thank you. Kathy Rooney?
I'm next. All right. Kathy Rooney, 7130 Rabbit Hollow Road. I'm assuming that y'all have received the notification of the fact that I resigned from the planning board. And I have very few things to say about that. I would like to thank the town of Summerfield for the opportunity for the volunteer work that I have done for this town since its inception, when they first started it. I've been on a lot of committees. I've done a lot of free work for this town. I also want to say that I'm really sorry about what went down with the de-annexation, and I personally would have preferred for the text amendment to pass and the time that Mr. Couch requested to bring his rezoning to the town council had been granted him, so that he could have done that. I believe at the time that the text amendment was passed, his lawyer said that it would be at least 9 months before he could bring his rezoning request. So I'm really sorry that it went down the way it did. The property is across the street from me and surrounds my property. I'm going to deal with it. And now, as I have no recourse to go over there and make sure that what is eventually granted to him is what's actually being done, because I will have no further, I don't have any rights, because he's not in Summerfield anymore. And let's see, what else? I'll talk about the trail that they want to put down Summerfield Road. As I understand it now, no person's property will be used for that road, that trail. The entire thing will be done in the right-of-way, and the people along the road that don't like it, they have one voice along with the other 11,000 people, the other 11,000 voices we have in this town, that some people would like to have it and some people wouldn't. And since it is in the right-of-way and not on anybody's property, then that their proximity to the trail doesn't count. It is in the right-of-way. It is a trail that is being built for the majority of the property and not just for the people that are right by it. And so I'll say thanks to Summerfield. It was a great run. And I will either will or won't be back here on a regular basis.
Thank you, Mr. Rooney. Appreciate all your years of service as well. Lexi Klein?
Lexi Klein, 7966 Highfield Road. Good evening, council members and fellow citizens. I'm here today to express deep concerns regarding Councilman Hamilton's recent proposal for public forums to foster fellowship. On the surface, it seems like an admirable idea, but the reality is far more troubling. Mr. Hamilton's repeated insults and personal attacks on Summerfield citizens make it difficult to believe he genuinely seeks unity or a respectful dialogue. For instance, telling a citizen that his family discussed her at their dinner table and that his children hate her is not only inappropriate but deeply damaging to the spirit of community Mr. Hamilton claims to want to foster. Referring to citizens who oppose him as desperate, aggressive, and calling another disgraceful sends a clear message that Mr. Hamilton sees public disagreement as something to belittle rather than engage with. And his disparaging comments about our mayor, calling him bitter and ineffective and lamenting that he'll finish his term, show a lack of respect for fellow public servants. How can we trust someone who so publicly demeans those who disagree with him to lead forums that are supposed to bring us together? How can we believe he'll listen earnestly to suggestions from townspeople when his past behavior suggests he dismisses dissenting voices with contempt? Mr. Hamilton's track record of divisiveness and personal attacks makes it impossible to believe that these forums will be genuine opportunities for collaboration. To add to these concerns, the town has quietly hired a deputy town clerk who actively bullies and harasses Summerfield citizens online. This hiring raises further doubts about the sincerity of efforts to foster open and respectful dialogue. How can we trust the leadership of someone who allows and enables such toxic behavior? In short, while the idea of public forums is valuable, I cannot support an initiative led by someone who has shown little respect for this community. Words of fellowship ring hollow when the actions behind them are so clearly rooted in hostility and disregard for the people of Summerfield. Thank you.
We respond. Beth Kaplan.
Dana, I thought you've done a great job, so I just wanted to know.
Thank you.
Beth Kaplan, 7979 Highville Road. Councilman Janelle Robinson has said, if you have a problem with transparency, why don't you just ask? So I'm asking. What is the status of the Teresa Perriman lawsuit against the town of Summerfield? How much have the taxpayers spent on lawyer fees defending the town against Ms. Perriman? Is the town planning on recouping any of the taxpayers' money from Ms. Perriman? What is the status of the potential lawsuit involving the town suing the state over the de-annexation bill? How much have the taxpayers spent in lawyer fees in this matter? What is the status of the potential lawsuit with the NAACP? How much have the taxpayers spent in lawyer fees in this matter? Are you, council members Clay, Devaney, Hamilton, and Robinson, planning to or have filed a complaint with the ICMA, International City Council Management Association, against Scott Whitaker? If so, how much staff time has been spent on this endeavor and how much in lawyer fees? And are you, council members Clay, Devaney, Hamilton, and Robinson, planning to sue Scott Whitaker and or any of our former staff members? And if so, how much have the taxpayers spent on lawyer fees to date? In the name of transparency, I anxiously await your answers. Thank you.
That is all of the public comments I have. Did anyone get left out or skipped? Anyone at all?
I want to say Donald Delkin, 3406 Windswept Drive. I wasn't going to come up here and talk, but the elections have consequences. The election is over. People ask questions, and that's great. You know, it's just, at what point as a town do we try to take a couple steps forward and stop taking 5 steps back? It just makes me wonder. I know there's true feelings about personnel from previous administration. I get it. I do understand that. However, I know the citizens have a right to explain and come up and ask all the questions. But when it comes to council members and the mayor, anybody sitting up there, the defensiveness really shows a lot. Because a question is asked, or the answer to that question might seem not clear, then it just turns the citizens, I think it would turn them off. And I know Twiggs knew here, and he knew what he was getting into.
But I think over time, things will begin to calm down. You know, things change, governments change, elections change things. You know, it's politics, it happens. At some point, everybody's gonna have to say, all right, let's move forward. We can still ask the hard questions. You may not like them, and the question's answered, if you don't like the answer, you can rebut it. But at what point do we just, you know, try to start moving forward a little bit? And that's all I've got to say. It's time for, you know, it's just time to move forward at some point. You know, we can, again, ask the hard questions. You want to know something happened before? And if it's not totally clear, you know, you just got, some of the stuff you got to let it roll off your shoulder. You can't carry it with you forever. So I would just say challenge not only the citizens, the politicians, that's a bad word to use, but to look at this position that you're all in and say, okay, what can we do for Summerfield? This is where we're at today. I know where we were yesterday or last year, but we're not there anymore. Time to move forward. Thanks.
Anyone else get skipped? Okay, we'll go to item number 9, council manager and or attorney response to any comments. Anyone have anything that they'd like to share?
I'll talk a little bit, if that's all right. I'll work backwards. Mr. Wendelken, thank you. Your comments are great. I believe that you're exactly right. You got to ask the hard questions and keep moving forward. And man, by the way, let me thank you for all the help that you've done here in Summerfield, because you really went above and beyond. As soon as there was a staffing issue, you jumped in there right away. I think you were one of the folks who early on, isn't that right? Helped out? Is that not the head? Yeah. So thank you for that. Want to be a little bit careful with Ms. Klein and Ms. Kaplan. I know those are both John Doggett's, Councilman Doggett's family members, and so I don't want to say anything disrespectful regardless, but I'm going to be extra careful about it. You know, I'm a little worried. I think some of these things are definitely aimed at trying to get into Patty Stokes' Northwest Observer, hopefully get comments in there, because I couldn't disagree with them more, and in some ways they definitely are defamatory, potentially actionable. But I'm trying my best to be as nice as I can. No, I feel like this town is actually on a good course right now. This is where we are now, the administration that's being built. This is a great opportunity for Summerfield. So if you really, Mr. Mayor, I'm trying to speak. I think someone was interrupting me. I don't know. If you could just watch it. Yeah, if you could just watch it.
Public, if you would, please, your time for sharing is over. Please continue.
Great opportunity for Summerfield. So for those folks who love Summerfield, this is a wonderful time for you. Ms. Rooney, I didn't realize you had been around so long as far as being on all the committees and doing all the things here. So thank you for your service, and I appreciate that. Mr. Brady, it sounds like you found some issues with the Board of Adjustments. And so hopefully we can look into those things and talk to you about them a little more. Ms. Dunham, I think you had some concerns about participation, right? You said that the comprehensive plan was one of the only things the town had no real participation with. I'm sorry, a lot of participation with. I'm sorry.
Only down to
I'm sorry. So
that's it.
So that's one of the reasons I am pushing for these town hall forums, because I think they're great. I think the opportunity for folks to come in and talk, we can put these things forward, this is what we're planning to do, this is what we're thinking about doing, and we can create that feedback loop that will allow citizens to let us know we like it, we don't like it. Now I think that might be scary for some people, but I think it's an excellent opportunity to get that out so that people can come and let us know what exactly they want, and we can find ways to encourage, I'm hopeful, a significant portion of the community that has not really been that involved in the town to come forward and start doing those things. Ms. Perryman, you had talked about the social media policy. Actually, one of the first things we did with the new, after the previous election, when myself and Mr. Clay got on here, we talked about that in the first meetings in January, February, and we were going to do that. Now, of course, a lot of things that have happened since then, But I actually think that's an excellent reminder for us to put the pedal to the metal and get that social media policy. And Mr. Rollins, if you wouldn't mind making a note of that, because it's an excellent idea, so thank you for sharing it. And last but certainly not least, Mr. Stalls, man, you should be setting up here. Thank you so much for everything you've done. This gentleman went to the General Assembly, made a lot of great contacts down there. Really, he was, in some ways, he was just, he himself was an excellent lobbyist. So I thank you. I thank you for everything you've done. Hope you continue to stay involved in the town. And this town, like I said, I think we're on a great course. We're getting better. I think that you are part of that. And so I hope you stay with us. That's it.
Anyone else?
I'll have some, Mr. Mayor, a little bit of time for comments back. I won't go in quite the order as Mr. Hamilton did, but Ms. Perryman, thank you for bringing that up. That is something that has been on the radar. The council has brought that up as far as social media. I just had a conversation with our new town manager just last week. That is something that has been on the radar. He just got here, but I wanted to let him know that is something that we need to put high up on the to-do list. So I do envision that coming relatively soon. And I'll echo what Mr. Hamilton just said. Thank you, Kyle. You have done above and beyond. We have wonderful volunteers, great citizens, and you echo that definition of going to other towns, to General Assembly, being a voice for our town. So thank you so much. Mr. Gray, I appreciate you coming out and mentioning the 30,000 square foot lot idea that you have, and I think I saw our mayor kind of give a nod to our new town manager, hey, we need to look into that, so that would be great if we could. And Ms. Rooney, thank you for the history lesson. I didn't know about the 9-month rezoning way after the TA, so I would love the opportunity at some point to really kind of give us like a history lesson.
You were there.
No, I just got here.
At the text amendment thing, you were there.
No.
You both of y'all came and made statements about it. Okay, so I'm not gonna-
That's all right. No, still, I appreciate you sharing that.
Okay.
That was great news. Thank you. That's it.
Any other comments from anyone here?
I just want to thank you, Kathy, for your service.
Very much so. And I would suggest that if you want defamatory to end, then let it go and move on. Mr. Wendelkin, for you to come up and make statements you made as if you're in favor of Mr. Rollins after emails you and other people in this room sent prior to his arrival, and then say, let's move on, is very contradictory. And that's all I'll say on that matter.
Thank you.
Any other comments from the council, staff?
I'd just like to, as the outgoing town manager, I'd like to thank staff for everything they did and all the volunteers. I couldn't have done it without all of you. It would have been an impossible undertaking without everybody. So I once again want to thank staff. Jeff, we've been there many late nights together at Town Hall. Rich, Scott, Brett, everybody has been so helpful. All the volunteers, we have several in this room. Thank you to everybody, all the years of service, Kathy, I know that you put in. I just want to thank everybody because this was a difficult undertaking, but with your help, we got through it, and I think we did a pretty good job considering everybody walked out at once. So thank you once again.
Thank you, Danny.
And thank you, council, by the way. Sorry.
I'm glad you can still laugh.
It's better than crying some days, I'll tell you.
Item number 10, business from the manager updates. Mr. Rollins.
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor, council, public. I have a few comments before I actually start my report. It is a great honor and privilege to be able to be a servant to the citizens of Summerfield. I want to promise you, the public, and the town board, that I will be open and a transparent manager in all areas of the town. I will be here to listen and seek understanding of all voices. I will govern with good governance principles, free of abuse, with always a regard for the rule of the law, to have ethical and legal accountability in all things, to be a consensus builder, to be inclusive and use a strategic vision with all the town's affairs and financial resources. I know that great things happen when people come together for the benefit of the greater good. Many more great things can continue to be accomplished here in the town of Summerfield, but only if the public, the town board, and the town manager lock arms together and have a common mission to attack the problem, not the person or persons, to have dialogue, not disagreements on the issues. I challenge each and every one of us to make our mission. In God's kingdom, it is a blessing to bring people together who are in conflict. The peacemaker initiates reconciliation when others have wronged them. So let us all remember that blessed are the peacemakers. For tonight, my report, Mr. Mayor and Town Board. First, just give the public some background. I met with each of the council individually, one-on-one for an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, whatever they felt like they needed, and it was a very productive meeting. And they kind of set the priorities of where they want to go. One of the things that I want the public to understand is it's my job to execute the consensus of this board. It's not my job to be unilateral. It's not my job to set policies. It's not my job to set goals or visions. That's these people. They're elected by you. So I'm just executing what they want as a consensus. The first and the resounding thing that came out was Bandera. So, to give you a progress update, what I've done in the 3 weeks that I've been here. I've met with the Piedmont Land Conservancy to get an update on the Bandera project and the upcoming trail grant application that was due today, and it was submitted for $500,000. We got all the applications and all the different stuff that needed to go in for that. I met with Abby Gosling, I may be mispronouncing that, of Guilford County on Bandera and Water ARPA grant funds. Met with Trey Fouché to get an update on the Bandera grants for LWCF and the part grants. He's with NC State. Scheduled a meeting for December the 4th to get all the parties together to strategize a game plan to get Bandera finished. Confirmed attendees at this meeting will be Commissioners Clay and Devaney, Pond Engineering, Guilford County, Piedmont Land Conservancy, NC State, the town planner, the town parks and rec director, and the town manager. Commissioners Robinson and Doggett and I met with Pond Engineering and Piedmont Land Conservancy to identify some areas where we can value engineer the project to lower cost. And that was successful. We don't have an exact number, but we did make some progress with that. A&Y Trail. Met with the Trails and Open Spaces representatives to get an update. Commissioners Clay and Doggett and I will be meeting with Kimley and Horn tomorrow to get a progress update on the A&Y Trail. Water project. Commissioners Hamilton and Clay and I will be meeting tomorrow with Freese and Nichols on the water project for an update. Town entrance signs. Met with Commissioner Devaney and Citizen Priscilla Olnick concerning town signs. We are gathering costs to present to the board at your December meeting. It is the goal of the three of us that met to do 4 town signs, all for under $75,000, not 1, but 4. I've also met with Citizen Jen Flanagan concerning the donation of property for a town sign on 220 South. My transition plan for the town staff is that based on the position, there will be 2 weeks to a month overlap for each position. The town finance officer will have a month with our new town finance officer, and she's going to be a consultant for the town as needed. And the same for me. She's been doing a great job with that. She's basically pushed me out of the nest, though. Other updates, I've toured and inspected all the town's buildings. I have found a lot of deferred maintenance and will need attention over the next several months. Council, I'll be coming for funds. I've gained access to the Gordon House and I'm gathering information to make a recommendation to you all as to its best use. I've attended an energy credit presentation at the Piedmont Triad Regional Council of Governments. I had lunch with the county manager and we exchanged numbers. I've reached out to probation and parole to start the process to utilize community service workers to increase our capacity for such things as cleaning town buildings and grounds, painting, trash pickup, and trail maintenance. There's always trash to be picked up and our town needs to stay beautiful. Maintenance has started restriping all the town's parking lots, and you'll see more of that this next month. Last weekend was the Touch a Truck. I think Mayor Devaney touched on that. And I will be at a strategic planning conference next week, board, with Commissioners Clay and Robinson that the North Carolina League of Municipalities will be putting on. So that is all I have to report. I do have 2 items that I would like, Mr. Mayor, for new business at your pleasure.
Okay. Thank you. Any questions on items 10A through D for manager?
Amazing report, thank you.
Any
How
other,
much is it gonna cost?
any questions?
Why aren't citizens involved?
Item number 11, business from the mayor and council, committee appointments, Mr. Vane.
Okay. I have something else to go back to after that. So for our committee appointments, Mr. Doggett and myself, we interviewed Sonia Turner for the History Committee, and we also interviewed Maria Adams for the Founders Day Committee. And with that said, everybody, also Mark Brown, who was on both those committees, he met with us as well and interviewed. He's the chair for the History Committee. And with his recommendation and our, we want to ask that you guys approve to seat both of these people. Should I put this in a separate motion to recommend each one separately? So I want to make a motion that we select Sonia Turner for the History Committee, and her appointment would be a 2-year term starting on, and somebody's gonna have to help me since it's now November. My 2-year term dates, do we back it up to July or do we just leave it at November? So it'd be 2027. July. We do it July? Okay. So a 2-year term started and it would end in July of 2027, correct? No, 2026. I'm sorry, 2026.
Have a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
Have a motion and a second, further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries.
Then the second person that we want to admit to the Founders Day Committee is Maria Adams. And so I'd like to make a motion that we elect Maria Adams to be a member of the Founders Day Committee, and her term would also be a 2-year term finishing up in July of 2026.
Have a motion, have a second?
Second.
Motion is second, further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries.
And I have a couple more comments, please, Mr. Mayor. With the unfortunate resignation of Kathy, and I do appreciate your service, we need to vote to pull an alternate up to the planning board, and so that would be Kyle Stalls. He said that he is seated as an alternate right now. So I would like to make a motion that we elect Kyle Stalls to be a board member of the planning board. And that's a 2-year seat as well. So 3 years. Can't see. Just motion something to me.
I'm not sure the 10, but it's not.
I think it's 2 years. Just 3 years, I'm sorry.
It's 3.
It's 3 years. be July 2027.
Mr. Fuller, you know if that's correct?
3 years. We've confirmed it's 3 years.
I'm very much in favor of still taking Candy's place. But I think the appropriate thing to do is to have him fill her term that expires in July of next year, and then appoint him again for a 3-year term at that period of time.
Okay.
That keeps everybody, we have the same number of people that pays them off every year.
Okay.
That's good.
Yeah, so it's right within your.
So I'll amend my motion that Mr. Stiles will fulfill Ms. Rooney's tenure or term until next July. That would be 2025. And then we will bring Mr. Stiles back to the election table at that time.
Have a motion, we have a second.
Second.
Have a motion and a second, further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, and the motion carries.
Now, with all that said, we are looking and have open positions for alternates on the Board of Adjustments and also on the Planning Board. We usually try to keep, or in the past, we kept 2 to 3 on the Planning Board, and the Board of Adjustments, that really varies. There's not a lot of turnover there. But I encourage citizens to step up. It's a new time. Bring your talents to the table and share with us. So I think that's it. Mr. Doggett, do you have anything to add? Since it says mayor and council business for mayor and council, I wanted to bring up just a couple of other things. Thank you for talking about the town sign, Mr. Twig. Sorry. I'm asking after Rollins. You can't give me a
think you just
nickname.
earned your new nickname. It's official.
And she said you guys earlier, so I'm rubbing off on her.
Yeah. Also, and this was Mr. Rollins, our Mr. Manager's idea was to get decals on all the town vehicles that makes them look official and that type of thing. But I believe you said that we had to decide if we would want the seal or the script wording. So I don't know if that's the time to do it, but I thought while we're in the process of making things more beautiful, straightening things up, let's get it going.
I would say on that, we used to have at the bottom of the business for the mayor and council, it was always the last one of those was an opportunity to have new business. And then at the end, there was also the other business, number 13. So if we can put that one, we may need to put that one back in just so we have it there.
Yes, sir.
But we'll move forward.
Yes, Madam Mayor Pro Tem. We'd like the council's direction. We have the obvious town seal that looks like this, but a lot of our town things that I've observed has the bugle boy and just says the town of Summerfield. And so before I went off to spend any money, I wanted to get the council's consensus and pleasure, which one you prefer to be on town property. So that was the purpose of stalling that until tonight.
I like the wording, town of Summerfield. I think it's easy to read and understand, and you don't have to try to figure out what it is. My opinion.
I agree.
I agree.
Yep, did you need a motion?
That's a consensus.
There you go.
I don't need a motion,
Okay,
just
are you
wanted
okay with that? Town of
feedback.
Summerfield, make it
Okay.
easier to read than just the logo.
Since we're making an exception for new business, you have those 2 items you want to bring up now, or you want to wait?
Whatever
Totally
you're
up to you.
If it's your pleasure, Mr. Mayor. The first thing is that I talked with some of the council this weekend about the upcoming Christmas tree lighting. And in my research, I found that we're spending anywhere from $750 to a quote of $1,500 to get our Christmas tree up for the lighting. I personally don't think that that's being a good steward of the taxpayers' dollars. One of the things that many towns have done, they went ahead and bought a tree that's pre-lit. It just needs to be put together by maintenance. So at the direction of a couple of the council, I got 3 quotes for one of these trees. Now, the town of Nash in Edgecombe County has had that same tree since 1992. So the return on investment would be quickly realized with that. So I got 3 quotes according to the purchasing policy today. The first one was for $20,000. The second one was for $7,500, but it did not have everything on it. And the third one was from an in-state firm that was $7,100. And so if it's the pleasure of the board and you authorize, I can get this ordered tomorrow and we can use it at our tree lighting this year. We won't have to rent Skyjacks from now on. We won't have to pay separate companies. We'll have our own tree. It has LED lighting, it has a star on top of it, and it's 14 foot tall, and we will have it forever. The current tree out there is kind of looking Charlie Brownish at the park. So that would be the first order of business, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to bring before the board. And I apologize for late, but this talk just came up, this issue just came up this last weekend at Touch a Truck as I talked to the individual council members. I did not talk to them as a group to clarify. I am very well with open meetings laws, so that would be what I would present first.
That's fine, thank you. Further discussion on that?
Do you have a preference for which one? I think it would be out of those 3.
The lowest responsible bidder is the legislative term. The lowest responsible bidder is the lowest bidder. I've worked with this company. Actually, my last town bought a tree from this company. They come with very good references. They are North Carolina based. The other 2 are not. The $20,000 one, believe it or not, was Walmart. Unbelievable. But and the other one was an out-of-state firm. But
these are not your typical artificial trees at $7,000. Are they gold, metal?
They're built out of metal rings. They have a 10-foot base. They're 14 foot tall, and they would have a star on top of them. So the purpose of having a tree light and having an illuminated tree on 220, it would more than accomplish that. But currently we're spending $750 a year at a minimum just to put up Christmas tree lights to take them back down.
Do we have a good storage location?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And we have staff that can install it every year?
In fact, they would come on site and help train the staff to put it up before the Christmas tree lighting. They confirm that. And train the staff to be able to take it down.
And if I missed it, forgive me, did you say the life of these, how long are they good for?
At least 20 years. There are towns in North Carolina that's had them since the early 90s. So it'd be a good investment, especially for the long haul. They're LED lighting, multicolored.
Is there a warranty related to these?
Yes, sir.
Any other discussion? Someone like to make a motion?
Make a motion, we authorize them to buy the tree.
I'll second.
At $7,100?
Yes.
$7,100.
Yes.
Have a motion and a second. Further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The motion carries. Do you have to?
Yes, sir. I actually had a third one. The second one has to do with the Christmas tree lighting and again being good stewards of our taxpayers' dollars. We've in the past, Mr. Mayor and Board, used Chick-fil-A, and I know that's tradition. However, Chick-fil-A is not in the town limits of Summerfield. They don't pay property tax, they don't pay sales tax. I think it's really important to support local businesses that support the citizens of this council. So I would propose that we change the menu, and I really just need a consensus on this from y'all, to pizza, and we would still use the Jumping Bean for hot chocolate, but we can feed pizza, we can support a local business, and we're going to save about $400 to $500 a year by buying pizza. It's a whole lot easier for kids too. So that is my proposal, and I would just like a general consensus from the board that they're okay with that. As I'm new here, and I don't want to break your traditions.
Change sounds great.
And this would be Domino's?
Yes, ma'am.
Any other discussion?
Sounds good to me.
Sounds good.
The last item, Mr. Mayor,
Heard two, is there a third?
Well, all three of
Okay,
us.
four, okay, good.
Mr. Mayor, if you'll indulge me, the last thing is you did mention that we have new business with the plaque today. That was a really nice event at the Martin House. And I'm really a proponent for supporting local business where we can. We can't always do that, but I envision there's going to be a parking challenge with that business and with the new hardware store. And I would propose, if it's okay to the board, that you allow me to sign a memorandum of understanding that forgive me the name of the old hardware store and the Martin House be able to utilize the town guest parking lot, which we just restriped for patrons as overflow. Certainly if we have town business, they understood that, you know, we'd have to let them know that it wouldn't be available. But so my proposal is for the board to authorize me to sign a memorandum of understanding with them to allow them to use that parking lot.
May I ask a question?
Yes, ma'am. Madam Clerk.
Is there a way, I'm just thinking about safety, is there a way to get DOT to strike something, or can we do that? Does it have to be at DOT, just so drivers, because they try to get through there pretty quick, and those big trucks coming through, I just don't want an accident to happen.
That is an awesome question. It was a discussion earlier today. Because we have all state maintained roads, we have to get permission from DOT, but we need crosswalks on all four corners. There's some other concerns with DOT stuff. I would love for the public, if you have some, to please call me at Town Hall, meet with me so I can take a list. I'm planning on a meeting with the district engineer. Somebody mentioned down on Strawberry Road near 220 today. I think Councilman Hamilton mentioned that to me. So we have some area concerns, and I'd like to take a package to them and address them so we have a safer town.
It sounds like a very nice idea, but should we put that in the agenda so that if there is a concern from the public or anything, that there's time to voice that? I don't know if that's, I mean, is there any pressing need to do it at this meeting, or could we put it on the agenda for next time?
No, sir, whatever your pleasure is. If you'd like to get public input,
Like have
Just to
public
make sure,
comment?
and maybe just to run a few legal questions by, because I didn't even think, I'm a lawyer, I didn't even think about what Lynn said, so, you know, that poses a couple of questions too, just to make sure that we've crossed our T's and dotted our I's.
I don't think it's a bad idea. I definitely want to support local business, especially the one across the street. But I think you bring up a good point. Is there some risk or some things, you know, legality we want to work through on safety and,
We had talked about with the Gordon Hardware Building, and if there was going to be some type of pub at one time, the concern of people drinking and crossing that road. And so if the Mercantile is going to have wine, I don't know if that's just selling closed bottles of wine, or if people are actually going to be consuming on site, but I would have concerns with them crossing those roads if
Yeah,
there's
we
alcohol
turned that
concern.
project down because of that.
Yeah.
We didn't want to be liable because it happens in our parking lot. Nothing else.
still a good idea, I think.
It's a good idea,
for
but I think
discussion.
we need to look into it.
whatever your pleasure is.
One more thing, when you meet with the DOT people, we want to have a half a sign, one of our 4 signs down at the, on 150, close to, there's a memorial there, there's a Boy Scout, you know what I'm talking about, almost to Oak Ridge. The People Boy, okay. So you can add that in there and talk to them.
And forgive me if I misunderstood you. I thought Councilman Hamilton was saying twofold. Can we table the issue about the memorandum of understanding on the parking lot? But not only that, advertise for comments from the public for other DOT concerns in the entire town.
Yeah,
That'd be great.
but we need the sign thing before December.
Okay.
We need the sign, we need DOT to tell us if we can put a sign there on that property before December, because we're trying to do the culmination of 4 signs before then, so we can start getting that hammered out.
Mayor, I had some questions, but it doesn't have to be at 11. It can wait until 13 other business if you want.
Okay,
If you-
anything else? Someone like to make a motion to recess the closed session?
Mr. Mayor, may I ask one question? Sometimes we do the business before so that if there's nothing to come back to, our guests may leave. Would you want to do that or keep 13 as is?
I'm fine with putting new business and other business in the future there, and sir, if you don't want to do it, but you have to have an opportunity for other business when you come back to closed session, because if you do something in there that you have to make public to take a vote on, you have to come back out and do it. So there may always be more business you have to come back and address. So I'll leave it up to you all. If you like to do it, we certainly can do it here. If not, we can do it at the end.
It's already been consented.
My question is really just for Ms. Luther and kind of for Twig too. And then my other business will be over. Thank you for giving me a little latitude, Mr. Mayor. We've worked really hard with you and try to support you during this time. Thank you again, Ms. Luther. And I know that you said you gave a long list of to-dos to our new incoming manager. I'm just kind of curious, sort of if you could entertain me just a little state of the union or maybe some lessons learned of, what, as new council, new coming in, were there things that, we could have benefited or learned from? And so my first question, and you can be brief, and this is public, so careful what you might say. But what was your biggest challenge within the first few weeks as you moved in as town manager, or interim town manager?
I would say the biggest challenge was probably getting access to certain things. I'm trying to be, like I said, unfortunately, I try to just state the facts, but it gets twisted when it gets reported, so I'm trying to be as polite as I can. Being provided with access to and passwords for the things that I guess were necessary to conduct town business. I would say that was probably the biggest obstacle, and unfortunately, we're still working through some of that. As we talked about tonight, we're streaming because we're on YouTube, and one of the issues was we don't have complete control over the Facebook, and even though the media reported that Jeff and I didn't know how to stream, it was more than that. It was a matter of not having the capabilities to do what we needed to. In this day and age, unfortunately, a lot of things are tied to your personal cell phone, and it makes it difficult when people leave to change things over. It's a lot of work, and there are also some obstacles, especially with places like Facebook, where you can't get a person on the phone if you try to call and so forth. So I'd say that was probably the biggest obstacle, is not having the passwords provided to me and the access that I needed, and still trying to overcome some of that.
And you're still trying?
Yes, unfortunately.
Were there any missed opportunities or things that we could have done better, or the council, process, staff, any missed opportunities you can think of?
I would say an exit strategy, maybe, if you want to word it that way, for your town manager for the future. I think that you need processes and procedures in place when you go from one to the next, so that we don't encounter the items that were encountered. Twig made some great recommendations regarding that, and that's one of the things that he's already trying to implement, and that we will work towards consolidating a lot of that. But there should have been a better exit strategy and actually statutorily required positions in place when I arrived. That would have helped.
Did you find that the previous administration was helpful in facilitating the change?
I worked closely with the finance officer, and she was very forthcoming, and she tried to provide all the information that she could provide in such a limited time. It would have been nicer to have a longer transition, and I know there were complications with that. She tried to give me as much information as she could in a little time, but there was also a lot that, for lack of information, that we did not have, and it's not something where you're gonna constantly call the ex-employees with a question nonstop all day. That's not something you'll do. So unfortunately, things got misrepresented online and on social media and the press that we were slamming former staff when it was a matter of we didn't have information, so there was no way for us to know certain things.
Is it appropriate to say fake news?
Well, you know, just to tell you, years ago, I almost came to a meeting with one of those buttons on, just to tell you, so yes, yes. And just to clarify on that as well, there's not enough hours in the day to fight that. There are a lot of things that have been said and put on social media and written, and it's false, and I would have liked to have fought back against it, but there aren't enough hours in the day. My main priority was getting the stuff done for the town, and I had to let that go. You know, as anybody who is in town government, you know you're going to get attacked, whether it's true or not, and you just have to thick skin. Yes, it bothers you. Of course it bothers you, but you have to just move on.
You did a great job.
Not one of my usual questions I was going to ask, but I'll piggyback off of what Mr. Hamilton just said. You only mentioned the prior finance officer. Did you have the opportunity, did you coordinate with the prior town manager to get all the things that you needed?
Somewhat. The first day I met with him shortly, but then he was coordinating with the IT people, so I didn't have a whole lot of interaction with him.
Were you allowed to be in that coordination with IT folks, or were you separated?
That was done independent of me. I was left with the finance officer for the transition, who was trying to provide me with as much as she could about everything. And, you know, I had pages and pages and pages of notes, but...
Do we still not have access to the hard drive, his hard drive?
We finally got access to everything, and it's only been a little over a month, Jeff, where we got access to the final stuff that was locked to us, correct?
Yes.
So we finally have access to everything now. Now, in terms of like usability, for instance, Facebook, they have controls in place that are hard to overcome, and without knowing the original person who set it up, it's hard to get access to everything that we need. So that's been a little bit of a dilemma.
You mentioned the sort of the access, the passwords, some challenges already. Maybe this is more so for Twig to understand, and maybe you two have already had this conversation, but what was the biggest challenge that you had to overcome, and what did you do to overcome it? Was it still the access, or was it something more?
I think a lot of it was access, but lack of information, maybe. Luckily, I had the historical knowledge that helped me get where I needed to go, or helped fill in the gaps for staff when they had a question. So I knew how things happened before, and so we were able to work through some issues, but...
Sounds like you were a perfect choice there for a while.
I don't know about that, but it helped. The historical knowledge did help.
Guys,
Last question I have, Mr. Mayor.
This is neither new business or other business or on the agenda. So, I mean...
Am I allowed to ask one last question?
Sure.
Thank you, sir. Was there any advice that you'd give the council or to the town manager as you exit from finance officer and from interim town manager?
I've given him a lot of advice already, but
probably can't say that.
I think the main advice was, well, pretty much to do what's best for the town and don't get into the politics. I'm not a political person. I hate politics. I just, you know, as town manager, I had to separate my citizen hat from my town manager hat. And I had to make decisions based on what the council wanted, what the council needed, and what the town needed. And that is what the town manager needs to do, is make decisions with what's best for the town and stay out of the politics of it. And look at what's best for the town.
Appreciate it, man.
Anyone like to make a motion to recess to closed session?
I move that we go into closed session to consult with an attorney employed or retained by the public body in order to preserve the attorney-client privilege as provided under North Carolina General Statute 143-318, 11A3, to address the amount of compensation and other material terms of an employment contract, to instruct staff and negotiating agents concerning the price and other material terms concerning real property as provided under NCGS 143-318, 11A5, and consider the qualifications, competence, performance, character, fitness, conditions of appointment, or conditions of initial employment of an individual public officer or employee or prospective public officer or employee, or to hear, investigate a complaint, charge, or grievance by or against an individual public officer or employee under NCGS 143-318, 11A6.
Motion, do we have a second?
Second.
Have motion second, further discussion? We stand adjourned for the moment. All those of you who will not be here will come back out. Thank you for being here tonight. Thanks very much.
If you decide to adjourn, or are you going to come back from closed session?
Have a motion, we have a second.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Any other business?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. I would like to make a motion to change the leave of absence Article 9 of the personnel policy to reduce the 2 days off on New Year's to 1 day off, and moving that day off to Christmas, totaling 3 days at the Christmas holiday, which would better align with the state holiday schedule.
Have a motion, do we have a second?
I'll second.
Further discussion?
And add for the holidays approved by council.
And I'd like to make an amendment to that, to what?
For all holidays approved by council.
For all holidays to be
State
approved
schedule.
by council regarding the North Carolina State schedule.
Okay.
Someone,
We have another second.
I'll second.
Motion is second, further discussion? I would like to say this is not the only thing we talked about the whole time we were back there. Hearing no other discussion, we'll call a question. All those in favor, please say aye.
I gave y'all a week.